Hello students, and welcome to week 8. This is Inquiry Learning 2, where we're looking into our content and pedagogical approaches for opportunities to integrate digital technology for inquiry learning. Specifically, we're looking to utilize digital web tools that will allow us to collect and manipulate data as students answer compelling questions, producing a product or a solution to a problem that you have posed in the classroom within the content. In these web quests, your students should be combining project and problem-based learning with the power of the internet, and they should be communicating, collaborating, critically thinking, and creating. My weekly screencast, of course, is here. This is what you're watching. But I begin with a quote from Tom March. And this is a critical paragraph that you need to read and consider. A web quest is not something you do to pass time. It is not a last-ditch effort for making the kids do something with the internet. It's not the post-it note that you slap onto your computer to say, aha, look, I'm doing something new. A web quest is a well-thought-out and planned inquiry using the internet to solve a problem or to engage a project. It should require your students to engage, enhance, and extend their learning. If your web quest does not do that, then it is not a web quest and is not worth doing. Your PBL web quest should be designed with a purpose. It should be designed to provide students with an authentic experience for meaningful learning. And that's why we begin with the content standards when we think about our approach to the classroom before we consider the different tools we might use. This is the framework for a web quest. These 5 components are the essence of any web quest. Your web quest should have these 5 components built into it. You will have an introduction. The introduction sets the stage. It provides the context for the entire project. This is where you establish the world they're stepping into. This is where you catch their attention and you get them invested in the situation. You give them a role to perform. You identify the world that they now exist within. That's the introduction. And then you task them with what they're going to do or make. So where the introduction establishes the world, the task tells them exactly, you're going to solve this problem, or you're going to make this product. It should be fairly detailed, and they should know what they're doing before they dive into the process. You've established your world, you've assigned them the task, then you dive into the process. And this is where we will utilize the inquiry process from either the Big 6 or the Super 3. The Big 6 is for high school, the Super 3 is designed for the elementary grades. So you will engage your students in the inquiry process so that they may complete the task that they have been presented with inside of the world that you have established in the introduction. The evaluation is the rubric. They should know up front how they're going to be evaluated. The same as I provided you with rubrics for this project and your digital learning environment, you should display a score sheet or a rubric that gives them an idea of what they're doing. The problem with rubrics is very often they box students in. So try and create a rubric that provides for creativity, that allows them to explore and expand their thinking and to express themselves. The promise of a PBL is that it gives students voice and choice in the classroom. If your students do not have voice and choice, you need to try and find where you can include that in your process. After the evaluation is the conclusion. You sum it up and you talk with the students and provide them with an opportunity to think down the road. What's next? You give them a chance to reflect and to think about what they've learned and why it matters. Why did this web quest, why did this inquiry matter to the students or to anyone else as a citizen in the United States? You might ask them new questions. You might let them come up with new questions to then investigate. It's a bridge. It takes the PBL web quest, it takes what they just did, and it connects it forwards and backwards. That's what the conclusion is. So these 5 elements will be present in your web quest. You must have an introduction, a task, a process, the big 6 or the super 3, an evaluation, and a conclusion. That's the model, that's the scaffold, that's the template, you might say. The type of web quest that you engage your students in is up to you. I've provided you here with a collection of ideas that you will borrow. I want you to select one of these types of web quests and use it to construct your own web quest PBL for this class. On your Google document, you must select and tell me which task you're going to do with your students. I'm going to take you through each one of these. Are you going to task your students to retell something? Are you going to task them to compile? Is it going to be a mystery? Will they be solving a mystery as detectives? Are they journalists investigating for a story, for a blog? Are they designing something to build? Are they creating some kind of product that's an expression of their thinking? Are they building a consensus with other students in the classroom or other classes in the school? Are they attempting to persuade you or persuade someone else of a particular point of view? Is it self-knowledge? Self-knowledge is a valuable and worthwhile task. Is it an analysis? Are you looking for them to write up a report? Are you asking them to judge or pass judgment on some type of a competition or a court case? Or is it a scientific task where they might write up a scientific research report? If you would like to read these on the original website, this is the location, this is the URL. If you click on that, it will take you to the website that shows you all of these different tasks in order. You will select one of these to help construct your web quest, and you should place your selection on the Google document that you've already shared with me from last week. And throughout all of this, please keep in mind, we're focused on the learning, the content. Technology comes second. We want to be immersed, and that's why you must start with the standards. You must go to the ODE's website for your grade level or content area, and you must find a standard that will allow you to construct a PBL web quest around it. We start with our content, we identify the pedagogy, and then we look for ways to integrate the technology. And we have to start, in our PBL web quest, we have to start with the compelling or essential or driving question. All of those mean the same thing. The driving question, the compelling question, is an open-ended question that does not have a definitive answer. It can go in different directions because it's very complex. Your question should be rooted in an authentic situation. It's not something false. It's not a false reality. It's a real world application that can go in different directions so that students can take that action because it matters to them. The question should matter to the students. And if it's open-ended, then it's a challenge. It should challenge them to think. It should require them to critically think, to gather evidence. They have to answer that question, they have to find the evidence, and they have to analyze it, and they have to find the best way to present that evidence to answer that question. Because they're intrigued enough and it's provocative enough that they're interested and they're curious. As you're looking around in your standards, very often standards already have essential questions identified, but you want to try and take it and make it your own. And once you've identified that content and you've got the question that you've decided to ask to drive the students' learning in this PBL Web Quest, you're going to put that question on the Google document as well. So we're adding the type of task you're going to do with the students. We're adding the compelling question you're going to use with your PBL Web Quest. And you're also going to want to identify the entry event. This is the introduction. And the entry event is what you use to hook students, to spark their interest, to set the stage. And I've given you 3 examples of some videos that you might use to think about what you could create or find. It might be a newspaper report. It might be a newscast, something that happened in current events. It could be anything that will spark their interest in the content you want them to learn. So the first video I have for you is a music video from OK Go, a Rube Goldberg machine, and it can open up a lot of questions about how did they do that. There's engineering, there's designing, there's physics involved, good hard science. It could drive the students to ask some questions and maybe even create their own. The second is a doomsday video about what happens if and when the world basically explodes. And then the final one, again, is an environmental challenge to the students, and it engages them in thinking about how to save the environment. So there's the OK Go, there's the doomsday, and there's the environmentally friendly challenge. However, before we can start looking for that entry event, you really need to identify that question. You have to think, what is a good question? In social studies, I like the compelling question, what does liberty look like? What does liberty actually look like from an economic standpoint, from a history standpoint, from a geography standpoint, or a civics viewpoint? What does liberty look like? Is it really the Statue of Liberty? Is it really the American flag? That's a question that can be answered in so many different ways depending on the student's perspective. So what is your question? I've provided you with a couple of videos. The first identifies and explains what a compelling question, driving question is. And the next is a video about making what we call a TUBRIC. A TUBRIC is a very simple device that you can print out and assemble that will help you think about your driving question. And so I encourage you, if you're struggling, to go to the TUBRIC's website and download the TUBRIC 2.0, put it together, and then see if you can't put together a few questions. So you'll take a look at the one video, and then you'll take a look at the TUBRIC video, and then you can go to the rest of the learning module. If you want further information about the compelling question, you can click forward one more time, and it will take you through a little video on writing a driving question. You should have all the tools you need in this Prezi to build a compelling question from the content. So take your time, work through it, and make sure you add to the Google document the task you're going to have the students do, what type of web quest is it going to be, and your compelling question, so that I can workshop that with you. Everybody have a great week. Email me if you need me. I will be around. Thank you so much.